If nobody has any objections, I'll do that.
I'm good with that.
I think we can start now. Yep. So I'd like to call it to order now. And if we could, for the sake of everybody, have introductions, maybe a little bio, background, interests kind of thing. So I'll start. I'm Mike Benjamin, lived here since 2019, but grew up southern Maine, so it's very familiar to me. My background is forestry, which is appropriate, I guess, and education. Retired from both of those, so, and here we are.
Wait for Mike. Get that thing pointed at you a little bit. You're very quiet.
Okay.
All the people later, when this goes to cable, might need to hear you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sherry Van Ness. I've owned my home since 2007. However, I didn't retire from the military until 2013. But I too have had family in southern Maine and been here on and off for a lot of my life, playing in the waters up here.
I know you.
So I am retired from the military and Pratt & Whitney. I worked there for about 7 years. And really, I just wanted to be involved. So it was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope I can help a little bit.
Do you live on Youngs Ridge Road?
I do.
I know you.
First house after the boat ramp. There we go.
We walk by all the time.
There we go.
Yeah.
Steve Bodkin, forester, town forester, as I still understand it.
Yep.
Been in town since '98. Just wanted to try to, hopefully lend a little bit of expertise that might be able to help town lands. Have worked for the town for a while, and, just have a pretty good breadth of knowledge of things happening in the woods and might be of use, so.
Kelly Collins, nurse. I live on Fox's Ridge Road. I grew up in Lebanon, but my family home camp is on Horns Pond. I'm a Horn by growth, and I'm very happy to live here. We've lived here for about 7 years now. I got involved with forest and conservation because it's a firm belief for me in keeping our lakes and streams and our forests happy and healthy for the animals that live in it and for us to conserve for our grandchildren.
Those are all. I love that.
I'm Joseph Rumer. I live at Sam Page Road. I lived in the town approaching 50 years, and I bought a piece of land way back and had wild strawberries growing, and I slowly converted it over to pick your own strawberries.
Oh.
And I raised nursery stock, and I ran a garden center for a number of years. And I'm sort of in the process of retiring, and I reclaimed, as far as forestry, I've reclaimed 3 or 4 gravel pits, which is very challenging because of the soil. I had to make my own mixture, and that was very challenging, and to reforest that, whatever, so. And here I am.
Thank you. So we do need, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to comment that that's really amazing that you were able to do that,
What's that?
to reclaim those gravel pits. That's awesome.
Well, it was all in the soil,
Yeah.
Or lack of.
yeah. Well, you build a profile, you build a soil profile, and then you take into consideration the what you're growing. Like, you start out with like a conservation mix.
Yeah.
If you can put clover, and the clover brings the deer in, and it fixes nitrogen. There's a whole thing to it. It's like, it took me 20 years to get a formula, and the thing is, every time you do it, you learn something new, and you change something. Had I done this, or should have done that, or did I? Can't remember what I did. You know? But those are the challenging things that I look back on, and and as far as planting trees, I've raised nursery stock, and And, planting trees in gravel is really challenging.
It is.
But you have to start with, get them going good and give them a boost. And then I found that instead of using commercial fertilizer, a lot of times I use cow manure and little things, and then I upgraded. I just fed them. I fed them on a monthly basis, considering what they needed.
Yeah.
Some needed nitrogen, some needed other things. So, but, growing trees is very important. I think for the town, it's important too.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
So,
Thank you all. So I think we need a chairperson. And I would I'll open the floor to nominations.
I think it's kind of hard to do without Daniel here.
He doesn't vote.
He doesn't vote because he's a selectman, is this correct?
Yes, he's
Okay.
he just is the go-between between this committee and the Board of Selectmen.
Understand. Does anybody have an interest to be the chair?
how about you? Do you have what's your background or,
Yeah, I would do it,
yeah?
Okay.
Had you been on the committee before?
yes.
Yeah.
What's,
Did you work with Carl Davis, or did you work?
yeah,
with-
I was
you
on
worked with
when
Carl.
he was still on.
Yep, you were overlapping a little bit, yep.
Yep.
And who else you work with? Did you work with Hurd,
Mark,
Hurd?
Yep.
yeah, you,
Yeah, we're about half of the committee that's been around for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And Mike's been around since about when Carl left. Mike came on, a little bit of overlap.
I do have a question for you. When we make decisions, what will be your role as the chairman? Do you have like a final say, or is it a
No, it's-
committee vote?
it's a committee vote. We'll
Okay.
follow if I'm elected, we'd follow Robert's Rules of Order,
Okay,
kinda. you
okay.
know. I mean,
I need to
not,
learn them.
don't worry. It's pretty,
You're no worse at it than I am, don't worry.
I have a cheat sheet.
Oh, very
right.
good, okay,
Well,
we
in
like
that case,
that.
Kelly, we'll let you make the nomination, how's that?
I make a nomination for, can you tell me your whole name?
Michael Benjamin.
I make a nomination for Michael Benjamin to be the chair of the Forest and Conservation Committee.
Anybody second?
I would like the second.
Second, yeah.
I'll second, yeah.
Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
all right,
So it be.
there. So now we need a secretary, since that was my role before. And so I'll open the floor to nominations for that.
I'll take it. If you, unless somebody else would like to do it.
No desire. I can help out if need be, but would rather
Okay.
not be that
Okay.
guy or gal.
Do we have I'll
Anybody else?
nominate you. I'll nominate you.
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there we go.
Bingo.
Done.
Off and running.
So the first thing I'd like to do is establish meeting dates and times so that we can get on the calendar. And my understanding, we'll see how it works, is once it's on the calendar, it's locked in and we can't get bumped. In the past, that's been a problem. We've set up a meeting for some date and another committee comes in and bumps us because we haven't been on the official calendar. So in talking with Jen, if we can set up a time and a date, she'll put it on the calendar and we're in. So Mondays probably wouldn't work because that's when a lot of other committees have their meetings. So, today is the second Tuesday, and which works for the town. So if that works for people,
I'm retired. You can, anytime you want.
As far as days of the week, this time is good and Tuesdays or Wednesdays are fine. so-
Tuesdays and Wednesdays are best for me, too.
But I don't know what the town has for their typical slots, if
She's-
something else is
Well,
happening.
Wednesday's usually selectmen's.
right,
Wednesday selectmen.
right. So if we can, that's kind of
It's better
where
to keep
Jen
this
was
then.
pushing Tuesdays. So does that work, second Tuesdays?
Second Tuesdays. I'm
Second
good with
Tuesdays
that.
of the month. I make a motion that we meet every second Tuesday of the month, go forth.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. This is wonderful.
This is the easy stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Tuesday. And 6 o'clock works?
6 is good.
Yeah.
Me too.
Can you get home and,
Well, I come straight from the hospital usually, but 6 is good.
okay.
Yeah.
You have a hard job, thank you.
Yes.
Just got promoted to manager of 2 emergency departments. Trust me, my job
Wow.
didn't get easy.
That's a big deal. That's hard to do.
But are you a good all?
What?
Are you a good all?
Yep, it's the Sanford and Biddeford. I manage both of them.
Nice.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
It is. So, just as a little background, and Steve might want to do this better than I can, but my understanding, there was a forestry committee and a conservation committee, and 8 or 9, 10 years ago, those were combined, and it was based on the recommendation in the town's comprehensive plan, which you can find online. It goes on, you know, the comprehensive plan covers everything. That's why they call it comprehensive, concerning the town and the direction that it's going. So they decided to combine the 2 committees, and they really didn't give the committee a direction other than follow the comprehensive plan. The town hired Steve as the town forester to oversee the 2 lots, the Hebo-Hibo lot and the town forest lot, town farm lot, rather.
To help give recommendations on what to do, certainly. Oversee might be a little strong, but yep. Yep.
Hopefully you're overseeing them. Yeah, so Steve has prepared a management plan for the town farm lot, and I haven't
And
seen,
an older one for the Hebo-Hibo lot too, yep.
okay. Forest management plan probably is not the right term, but maybe land use management, because there's all kinds of things in the plan that, not just forestry. So conservation, recreation, wildlife habitat, all those things, so.
Is there an extensive report as to what is actually living in those areas?
Go ahead, Steve.
Within the plan itself, for example, we started off having the State of Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. There are databases that say if there's anything endangered or threatened in those areas. And for example, on the town farm lot, we do have a section of a heron rookery and some wetlands back there that are highly valued. So there isn't anything as to say, you know, are there deer or aren't there deer? You know, something as generic as that. But there are, obviously, and you come into the plan and simply say, here's what we have as the threatened or endangered stuff out there. And the plan tries to take, the way that I explain forestry plans or land management plans is that you're putting this information together for use by whoever your client happens to be.
So it's tailored.
For example, I do go out and measure and count, you know, the trees out there and give forest inventory type stuff. But there's also spots within the plan that say, here's where I found some of this. Maybe this town farm lot, for example, we found some historically significant, a small cemetery. There's some sections with an old foundation, an old homestead, and that's pretty common around this area. So it's not necessarily just wildlife, but things that might be anything related to the land. Because again, the way I explain it to people is, as a forester, I'm here to help give advice on where a client wants their land to go, not necessarily where I think it should go. So that's kind of the way that I look at things, is
With Acton being the client.
with Acton being the client, exactly. So before the plans were written, we had people invited in to give information about, here's what I think is important, can you keep an eye out for this type of stuff? And then that information went into the plans themselves. The Hebo-Hibo plan was back quite a long while ago, probably around 2000 or so. So doesn't have quite as much of the newfangled aerial photography and all that kind of fun stuff that the newer plan for the town farm lot has. But the town does have copies of both.
Has Hebo been logged?
It was back in the day, like, that was about
Okay.
2002. So it's still been quite a long, it's been 20 years anyway, since that one has seen any work on it. And just for information to you guys, the town farm lot last had work done on it in the mid-'80s. So that one has been quite a long
How
time.
far up is that on that road?
How far up Town Farm Road?
Yeah.
It's about halfway across.
Well, I've never been up there, so I don't know, I've just seen how.
Let's call it a half a mile in.
Half a mile.
That might be that
Yeah.
might be long, not that much.
Yeah, I don't think it's that far.
Yeah, somewhere between a quarter and a half.
So it depends on the weather or the washouts, whether it's navigable or,
Yeah, it's the road that goes up in past Jim Driscoll's house.
well, I know where the
Yeah.
road is, but I've never been up it, so I was
Right.
just wondering, so.
And wherever when I had done the inventory of the plan, I put a grid system across the entire lot and take measurements on all of these places. And whenever I had done so, I tried to do my best with the deeds that I had to, whenever I had bumped into a corner or
Lot
a
markers.
property line, so it is flagged in blue flagging as best as I understand the lot lines to be.
So do you have a copy of the inventory of the existing,
Yes,
so?
yes, yep. And
And,
that's part of the plan. It's been submitted to the town, yep.
and before we make decisions, will we have an opportunity to go out and actually walk these lands?
Yep.
That's,
And we have in the past and
Both
certainly
winter and
will
summer.
again,
Yeah.
yeah. So part of where, forgive me for jumping in,
Keep
but.
going.
So as we have tried for over the last few years was to gain information and knowledge and then some direction on if, what, and when we might do something again on these two town properties. And we've kind of been bumping our heads against the wall as to procedurally and with consistent direction, gain some traction to have this work, to do something, whether that is woods work or it's recreational work or preservation of historical site work, anything is open to discussion. But again, we've kind of not been able to keep that train on the tracks very well for the sake of not having, consistent membership
COVID.
and
And
COVID and consistent, not only consistent membership, but to that end, consistent meetings, and then therefore consistent direction. So things have really been very disjointed. So for the lack of better term, we're trying to call this a reboot, I guess. If we've got some new blood and to be able to hit the reset button and make sure that we have the procedure the way that the town needs it to be, so that there's not second guessing later as to whether or not procedure had been followed.
Yeah.
Everyone had goals and expected and tried to do our best to do so.
Oh, yeah.
But there were very many opportunities to just, slip in the cow poo that you didn't see in the field or something like that for all of the process. Yeah, that's
we'll edit that out.
that's right.
Do you have any oversight in Mary Grant, Goat Hill, or any other?
I think the way that had been, Joe, is I have not done any woods work out there, but I am,
Is that?
as
is that-
town forester, I'm open to give advice on any of the
Is
town
that under the
properties.
jurisdiction of Three Rivers, or is that the town of Acton?
There is a separate Mary Grant committee.
I don't know, I'm not to the committee, but who, it's the town, does the town own that?
The town owns it, yep.
So it would come under your, as you.
As I understand it, again, remember, this is not, and so for your information too, this is not this is an advisory committee. We are not, as we understand it, a conservation commission that has oversight rules. We don't have authority. We are here to hopefully give direction and codify the idea of what the town would like to do, and then try to give it some legs to move it forward, to help it move up through the select board and also town meeting, is kind of the process.
I'm a little, on that note, I actually was led to believe that this committee, since we didn't have the ground rules, that we were going to create what our purview was, and that it might incorporating, managing the logging of those areas and the conservation of those areas, depending on what we decided we were going to do with our time, what we put in writing, what we wanted to look after.
Correct. But where
So
we
that
were
does
butting
give
our
us-
heads against things was, some were here thinking that we actually had some legislative power. That we do not. So if someone says, you know, Steve, as town forester, we would like to, this is the town speaking, not the committee, but if we gave a recommendation that we would like to do something, anything regarding the town farm property, let's say, then we have an idea, we vote on it, we kick it upstairs, so to speak, and then as things.
Board of
go
Selectmen.
To the, I'm sorry?
To the Board of
To
Selectmen.
the Board of Selectmen,
Make
and then
recommendations.
presumably to the town at large at the June meeting. So if anything is to happen, we have been under the impression and idea that it needs to go to full town meeting for levels of action of that magnitude of, say, logging or anything like that. If we were to do recreational trail work, I would doubt it would need to go that far, or maintenance work or something along those lines.
Especially if there was any spending of money, or there was gonna be
Right.
money earned from the.
Or appropriation of money
The-
needed for something, yeah.
It does seem kind of senseless to have a committee meeting if the selectmen are going to be making decisions. What actually is the role? What is our role going to be if we're not going to create a purview and manage that purview?
I think
Why are we here?
that's a good point. And what I've been told by both Jen and Dan Norwood, and just as an aside, he texted me before 6 o'clock and I had my phone shut off, but he said he will not make the meeting tonight. I will still try, but I'm not sure I will make it. I want to deeply apologize, but please let me know how it goes, and I'll have my phone on me if you have any questions that you need answered. I want to say again that I apologize, I won't be able to make it. So my understanding is we make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, and whatever they may be. We decide what direction this committee should go, what our parameters are, what our mission statement is, and we make those recommendations. We're kind of the sounding board. It's like the road committee, the finance committee. They make recommendations, and the Board of Selectmen can take them or not. But I think it would behoove the board if we came up with a recommendation that they would consider it and follow it. But that's,
It's kind of like that we are they're asking us to be the experts in this part, right? And then we bring that, what we have found and what we say with our knowledge together, and say, this is what we feel would work best for this town. We need you to approve it. And to be honest with you, a lot of times they go with our recommendation, or they'll say, give me the reason, or give us a reason why they can't, if it's too much money or whatever, things like that. But so basically with the advisory board, with the information that we take to a selectman, just like any sort of legislative branch, you work with a governmental aid, right, before it gets to the senator, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're doing here.
Okay, I just didn't want my time to be an
Oh,
effort
no.
in futility.
No.
me neither. I mean, I'm retired too, but I got other things I could be doing, you know?
Exactly. Okay.
But I think the key here is Dan is our liaison. And if we're talking about something and he's sitting there going, time out, that's not gonna work, or,
Or would never be approved, or if we were out in
Right.
left field or
Right.
something like, yeah. Yep.
so,
Okay,
Oftentimes, the people on the committees know more about
yeah.
the subject than the particular power
exactly,
to be.
exactly.
I mean, it's been shown time and time again, and I guess there'd be sort of, people scratching their heads,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say anymore.
yeah.
I've
okay,
spoken.
thank you.
That,
Yes, it does.
As clear as-
So,
Shut my
with that
microphone
being
off.
said, are we looking to make a mission statement?
I'm glad you
Good
brought that up.
segue, way to
Good
go.
segue into the mission statement.
So if that, I just wanted to make sure everybody had a kind of a direction where we've been, where we might be going, and go from there. And I think the sky's the limit here, what we want, what we think is appropriate and for the town and for the land, and you know, as a committee, how we do our business and get things done. So, we did pass a mission statement April 11th last year. And it was the result of looking at, I think it was Alfred and Shapley and some other towns.
Wells of Berwick,
Wells, yeah.
Some of the Berwicks too, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we distilled it down to what we passed. There's nothing that says, it's not legal because there was a member that wasn't
Sworn in at the time.
Sworn in.
sworn in. Thank you for, so we can do anything we want. We can take a look at it. It's under number 2 in old business.
Kelly, you can send that back.
Send that to you.
Thank you. What what I'll do with this is, I'll send it out as an email, so everybody has it.
Oh, that, yep,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Yep.
And where can we find the comprehensive plan
It's
to
on
review it?
their town.
It's on the town website.
Ours?
Yep.
Do you need more paper? There's some extra copies if you need
Greatly
extra
updated.
paper.
Looks nice.
It has been? Yep.
The new
I haven't
website.
been on lately, yeah.
Does anybody need extra paper for anything?
That's the agenda we've already got going.
You needed something to write on.
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we had, as far as the mission statement goes, we certainly had quite a lot more, verbiage and some ideas of this thing, and it really kept coming back to the idea of, the advisory part of things and what our jurisdiction of the land, what parcels we had that we were working with, what we were available to do. And in these sorts of things, in my mind, the less words, the better. You're trying to be very principled in your words, because we didn't want to pigeonhole that we worked with this, and this, and this, and this, and this, because this mission statement said that we had to or only do this. Because when we came back to it, like we had made the statement earlier here in this meeting, that we have open direction for us to go where we would like to go within this. So the idea is even though we had a lot of ideas about, well, on this lot we should do this, and on this lot, that was much more of a smaller microcosm, not a mission statement level type of thing. So when we came down to it, we ended up with this statement in number 2 that we passed. And, I think it has a pretty good
It is. It's
broad
red.
breadth of things that we can do, but the selectmen kept putting it to us that we have the ability to go out and again, they're not telling us what we can do, they are asking us for our advice on what we would do. And if you think of it like that, then why are we pigeonholing our job description?
It's very well written.
Yep.
One thing that, just as, to further this, Dan talked to me about was an ordinance. And we talked about that as a committee, and I think we voted it down, the idea of having an ordinance back a year or 2 ago. But evidently, it's still circulating at the select board level.
Back up a half a step and redefine what that means compared to where we are and what we wanted versus what we didn't, for explanation's sake.
I think Dan was saying, the road committee has an ordinance, the finance committee has an ordinance. It would just give us, he feels, and I don't know how much support there is on the board for it, but he feels that would give us some
Credibility.
Legitimacy or?
Yeah, both of those words.
Yeah.
Legitimacy.
Yeah. So, in my mind, I think the mission statement is the place to start. And then from there, if we choose to go down the avenue of an ordinance, and I wouldn't do it unless Dan was here, then I think that's the direction. But,
To reiterate a little bit, what would that, other than, I mean, the word legitimacy certainly is worth something, since we feel like we're the so-called redheaded stepchild over here in the corner kind of scenario. But what would that, forgive me for saying this, but what would that get us? I know. You can punch me anytime that you
If
like.
it's an advisory role, merely an advisory role, what is an ordinance going to get us?
And that's what we were circling
That's what we
around on
circled around and
beforehand.
around.
Yep.
and around and around and around.
And around again, yep.
And
Unless
then
it just makes the committee valid.
we're valid, we're meeting.
We've
And,
already been sworn in,
right.
so I think it's kind of, it stands on its own.
And that's why I think the committee didn't want to go that far, because if we weren't going to have authority for things, then what exactly would the ordinance have gotten us? That's why we went with the decision that the mission statement, while as broad as it is, really could and should be enough. However, within the town's structure, I guess is the word to use, they seem to still have some value attached to it that, I guess myself personally, I don't believe is
Daniel-
required, but,
I bet Dan could
You would probably
explain
clarify
Yeah.
why
why
we need it
we
more.
need it.
right.
If it's if I have a say in that, I think I would like to wait to get Daniel's input before we talk about creating an ordinance.
Oh, absolutely.
If it's
For sure.
necessary or not.
Right.
But I agree, this is very well written, and I would be okay in using this same mission statement. How about you, Joe?
I think it should be a little bit more aggressive as taxpayers and people with knowledge. Oftentimes, the powers that be don't listen.
Okay?
They not only listen, they shy away. And subsequently, I think there's a, I'm not gonna go into examples, but people spend a lot of time on these committees. And they feel like, it's almost like they went to a cliff and they yelled out and they got an echo back, but there was no, there was no message. It was like, I think it'd be as far as being aggressive in the sense that your opinion is worth something as a taxpayer, whether you're on this committee. I think somebody coming off the street starts talking about trees and are knowledgeable, I think that should be considered too. To me, this is part of a democracy, and I think this is important. And I think that this committee, we're a little bit aggressive in the sense that, okay, we're gonna work with the town farm, we're gonna forest that, we're gonna take a hard look at it, how many acres are left, should we keep it, if it's a mile, half a mile in, what's the future use of it? I mean, are we gonna fix the road, or, it looked to me like it washed out one time. I think David White logged up there, didn't he? With her, yeah. I
Yep.
mean, to me, it was like,
It is seasonally passable, but then
Yeah.
again, that's, like I said, to your point, I'm personally just looking for what an ordinance would do for us versus a mission statement, and I think that's kind of where we land. I'm fine if the committee and the selectmen are requiring it or desire one, but again, if we are an advisory position, then I think it's lip service in a manner of speaking. If they believe that
I
we're,
know,
that,
that's the whole thing, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If it could be, not that we're being more assertive, but we're giving some sort of thought to this whole process. Is it respected, or is it just kind of cast?
Well, it's brand new again, so we have to earn that respect, and we have to put it on paper, make decisions, go up and look and see what's going on. I personally am on the side that I would like to rejuvenate our forest and make it passable for people to enjoy. I am of the tendency, I like old growth. And I've done a little bit of research, I'm certainly not a forester, but some of the things that we were taught, according to sites like Yale, say that that's not really true. Cutting down the old stuff for the new stuff doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. So, I mean, depending on the health of the trees, and I hope that we get to the point where we're able to assess the life that's left in the trees that are there and how do we manage them for the long haul? That's where I would like to see us
And- but
go,
I,
to make it as
And
beautiful
that's
for
where
the
the
town
plan,
as
that's where the
possible.
plan comes in very well.
But I
too,
don't
yeah.
know that an ordinance would help get us there because we're only an advisory committee. So even with an ordinance, how would that change? And without Daniel here to provide insight as to what the ordinance would give us. So, and couldn't you have an ordinance and a mission statement?
Well, I was just gonna say, even with an ordinance, you still are gonna need a mission
Yeah.
statement for the committee work,
Right.
right? So that
And
is,
that you want
that's
to be
appropriate.
broad.
Right.
That's
And if-
appropriate procedural. So, so even if he should come back and say, we need an ordinance, we're still gonna need this mission statement
Right.
to carry out our mission of
Yes.
the committee to meet the ordinance. Does that make sense?
Yes,
one of the things that was difficult for new members is just what you're saying, what do we do? What do we do? And that's, I think, was the impetus for writing the mission statement. Here, you can look at it. It is fairly broad, but.
you want that to be broad.
Right.
You don't want to pigeon
You do
pigeonhole
not.
yourself just like
Right.
that.
So-
I'm familiar with mission statements. Everywhere you go, everybody has a mission
That's
statement.
right. You spend a lot of time on
That's a
them.
lofty goal, and that's what you want your mission statement to be anyway, a lofty goal.
But I think it's important to remember that, we're the Forestry and Conservation Committee. And cutting trees is not the main purpose here.
Right,
Like Joe said, what can we do best for that piece of land out there?
right.
And, is it trails to wander through those old foundations in the cemetery?
That would be nice.
Signage, and as kind of an aside, Jen asked me, what the budget was gonna be for this committee, and I said, what was it last year? She said $300. I said, keep it. And she said, what are you gonna use it for? Because the Board of Selectmen are wondering, what are you using that money for? And I said, well, I think it'd be a good idea to have signs out there, so
That would be
people can
nice.
drive down the road and go, oh,
They had
look.
signs up at Mary Grant and now they're gone. I mean, Carl Davis actually, God bless him, he actually put signs up in each small little, say Douglas for Earth.
Yeah.
And we donated plants up there.
Yeah.
There was such a transition over a period of time, and it kept changing, and certain individuals aggravated the situation that people would come and then they get aggravated and they leave.
Yeah.
So the whole process got withered down, and finally it was eroded, and it's turned into
But
a different type of thing now. It's more
Right.
of a social place than
Right.
maintaining the trees or identifying the trees, which should be nice.
Yeah,
And you
so I
could
think-
even plant trees too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how,
Or even wildlife, showing
Yeah,
about.
that would be nice.
Wildlife conservation. This is, a site that we're conserving for the continued growth of the wildlife in the trees in the area, something that says that.
So if somebody asks
So the
you,
foundation too, I'd like to know who used to own that
Yeah,
foundation.
like who owned the foundation or.
Yeah, just a little town history if you
just
could.
digging up all the bones. Like,
don't say that.
I don't need it.
Don't say that.
I can see her now with her picture.
We actually have a lot of that information, Joe, already. Ham over on Fox's Ridge, he has done a lot of research out there.
Oh, really?
And
That's awesome.
he's even gone so far as to know when the last time the entire, I mean, again, it's Town Farm Road, and the town property, in fact, was the old town farm. So he has gone back through the old safe and various places in the town hall and otherwise, and found that, this was the last year that the old, what is now, 24-inch white pine, 60 feet high, was actually hayed. So, the idea behind what the history of these places are.
There's open space that was, besides hay, it might have been, was there vegetables grown there or other?
Well, I don't know, we would have to look that back up, but he was just kind of trying to find out. It was, in fact, if I remember correctly, part of a Godding family somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And when that family left or passed away or something, and again, please don't take this as fact, but it then was given back to the town, and then it became the town farm. So obviously, the way that process would work is if people didn't have a home or needed somewhere to live and needed some work to have happen, then they went and lived on the town farm and helped farm it. you know, but that's just the process of a town farm, and this one just happened to be ours. So
So-
the history of it's pretty neat, but,
Let me go
yeah,
back.
go for it.
The $300
Yeah.
is going to be presented at the June meeting as part of as our budget. So if anybody asks, you know, why do you need $300? I mean, we've kicked around some ideas right now that would probably,
Well, first of all, we need to say, yes, do we want the mission statement or no? And then let's, the
I'm-
budget, and 300 is kind of small for signs, isn't it?
well, I didn't want to,
We can't increase it yet because we haven't used it at all. So we
Right.
don't want to lose what we already have.
With the plan, with the
Until we
budget plan, if we
yeah.
submitted with that?
Oftentimes, if we were to require more money for certain things, then it may rise to the level of being a town meeting,
agenda item.
Agenda item,
Warrant,
okay.
warrant item, yeah. Okay. Do we want to take any action with this?
I'm going to make the
Use
motion
this.
to leave the mission statement as is and carry on from that point.
I second that.
Okay.
Does anybody have any changes they would like to see on this?
does that mean that we need to go through the process of formally readopting it? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. we have
Yes,
to do-
okay.
We have to formally readopt it. 'cause
Is that what you're asked, or,
I am asking us to
Making a mo-
formally adopt, I'm
Okay.
making a motion, the mission statement as is.
It's
you-
broad enough that we can work with it.
and you seconded it?
I did.
Okay. In your minutes, I think Jen would like to see who makes the motion, who seconds it, and what the vote is,
Okay.
and who voted for, against, or abstained, because there will be cases where Steve has to
He
abstain,
does, yeah.
and we want to make sure that that's clear.
So how do I say it? Kelly nominated, or what am I? who's-
She made the motion
Made
to
motion, thank you.
To
adopt
approve, to approve and adopt.
the mission statement as written, as presented. You seconded it. You'll develop some shorthand.
Possibly? Okay.
And then it's open for
Debate.
debate. Anybody have any thoughts on changing or accepting or? But to your point, Joe, I think it's, I think in our actions, we will show the selectmen that we ought to be listened to.
The only thing I have to say is, without reviewing the comprehensive plan, it's kind of hard to say
Yeah,
we're going
well,
to go to the comprehensive
You gotta
plan.
understand the history of the comprehensive plan. It was
Right.
kind of
I did,
thrust upon the town, like we have to have this. It used to be that you buy a piece of land and it's yours and you do what you want with it, and now it's gotten down to, are you in the, you know, like you're up in Youngs Ridge, you might be in a different zone than like Steve, is another zone, and say you wanna do something, or say horses, I don't know what the many various restrictions are. But you don't own that land, you've gotta go to this chart, and it tells you what you can and you can't do.
Wetlands and such.
To me, that takes away the whole challenge and joy of owning a piece of land. I'm making the decisions. And subsequently, as the town, what the town has done essentially is gone from a farming town, where people, you know, whatever, to what it is, it's a suburb, it's a cyber suburb of Sanford, Maine, really is what it is. And it's changing, and all these rules and regulations, so now you've got the land, and the one thing the town did not do is with forestry, is they gave up their, I guess the state has such regulations, they gave up the local restrictions, that they not, yeah.
Well, the way that, to piggyback on that, I guess, is the way that the comprehensive plan came about, not necessarily the why, but the how, is Southern Maine Regional Planning comes down to towns from above and says, we would like to help you put together these recommendations and help give you guidance on what the towns, in the same manner that I wrote the forestry plan toward what the town would like to do with its land, the Southern Maine Regional Planning helped to write the comprehensive plan, but brings together all of the different goals and, different types of land and different committees within the process. So for example, somewhere along the line, and I could probably bring it back up in order to pinpoint the comprehensive plans conservation committee recommendations portion of it. There was a meeting that I had when I literally said here on page 52, it says that the conservation committee or the conservation committee or conservation, committee or, what's the more regulatory one we just used?
Commission.
Commission, should have authority or some level of oversight over A, B, C, and D. So it just kind of gave guidance in the same manner that the plan gives guidance on a piece of forestry land or a piece of land. The comprehensive plan to the town tried to give advice to the town to say, we have polled, I'll call it, your townspeople and your powers that be, and through public meetings, we have gotten goals from the town of what the town would like to see our town to be. And then the comprehensive plan was written to say, if these are the goals that you say that you like, to keep the farming parts farming and to do this in this area and to do that in that area,
There
then
does
it
have to
gave
be
methods
structure.
on how that works and how one might break up, and give recommendations to people within the town to make those goals happen. So it was the advice of how to move forward with the townspeople's goals on a town level to create the town that we want in theory. And that's what how
I'm
it
sure
reads.
that plan has been around for a very long time.
Correct.
It's out of date.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that, but it probably
Yeah.
needs to have a
It's
review
a-
as well.
it's an
But for the
expen-
purposes of this committee, I don't know that our mission statement is gonna change without seeing the comprehensive plan. We would just need to have it be broad, which it is, and somewhere to start, which it is. So with that being said, I have seconded. Do you guys agree, or can we
I-
start with this?
Is there any further discussion warranted?
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say before we call a vote is, I did go through the comprehensive plan and wrote down every article that was somehow related to the.
Very nice.
So, it's my scribbling, but, I think the mission statement covers all of that, in a broad way, without, what we said, pigeonholing us to, something. So, unless there's any other discussion, Joe, you all set to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's 5-0. Awesome. That only took
And that's
10
how it's
minutes.
done.
Okay. I'm gonna have to bring a lot of note paper next time.
Tape recorder,
Yeah, that'll work.
Well, it will be on Facebook, so
long tape.
thank you for that. That's a lot of work done quick. Future items for discussion. We've kicked around the ordinance idea. Is there anything else people are,
Well, I would like to actually get out and see that property and find out, and actually have available, guiding doctrine as to what do we want to do? How do we want to proceed? We need to have some guiding doctrine.
I think it might
Go back to the
help
plans.
for you to see the plan.
Yeah,
And Jen, I have that still on my phone. I'll send it to you.
that's fabulous. Thank you.
Okay?
Could you send it to me too?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I don't,
Is-
Jen has it. I'm
At this time of year, is it possible to go up to the town farm or
not,
no?
So we'll have
Not
to
really.
make a spring.
I mean, it's probably a snowmobile trail, Joe, but you're not driving up there for sure.
Is that, without the snow, you couldn't drive up there?
oh, we did.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
Oh, this
I mean, I
time-
wouldn't do it at any wet time of year or under rainy
Okay.
conditions. If you picked a good dry day. it
You know
would be
what kind
all
of soil that is by any chance?
right. You mean on the road or are you talking
Yeah,
out
both,
in the
that
woods?
whole area. It must be like a heavy clay.
The road, no, the road's not bad. I mean, the road has been washed out. But like I said, it's mostly pretty heavy like cantaloupe to watermelon sized rocks in some places.
So we need to get, and talk to the road commissioners to get them to go through with a grader at
Well,
some point.
for example, that's not, here's where we start to get into
Yeah.
recommendations up the ladder, so to speak, is if we increase access, A, that's gonna cost money that the town may or may not wanna spend on the property, and B, some of us in the past, we have discussed different ideas, and ideas have been brought up about not wanting to increase traffic on some of these properties. So that's where we kept butting heads a little bit, and we have to try to find some middle ground on this sort of thing.
That makes sense.
Or limited access.
Right.
If we went up in a snowmobile, is it flagged, or are we gonna know?
I have flagged some property lines, but you won't see them unless you know where you're going and
Yeah.
have looked at the, for example, within the town farm plan, if you've got the gear to do it, is really the best way, but I don't know that you do. A handheld GPS, I have GPS coordinates on all the corners that I've taken out there. And I have, well, that's what I'm saying, it's not going to happen at that level.
You have
So-
GPS, I have a compass.
So if you show up and if you show up and wander around out there, Joe, it's not going to be
Might not
very
be in the wrong
easy.
piece of land.
You're not gonna know where you
Might
are.
be wandering on.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go up the road and you see the recent cutting on the right, where that cutting ends is where the town lot begins.
Okay, so that was Herd's lot, right?
Yeah.
It's actually a little bit before that it's on the opposite side, Joe, of Herd's cutoff line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're at Herd's piece, that cutoff lot on the opposite side, the north side of Town Farm Road, is somewhere between a third and halfway across the frontage of the Town Farm lot on the
Oh, I
opposite
see.
side.
Okay.
And since this was a combination of conservancy and, what was the other one?
Forestry and
Forestry.
Forestry,
conservation.
so that's really, we're gonna have to narrow down, what do we want to do?
Well, yeah,
Correct.
Are we looking for that? I am more of a conserve person, I can tell you that right
Yeah,
now.
but you can conserve by using proper forestry.
Yes,
Correct.
common sense ways, I get it, but I'd like to,
It's
you
a
know,
cycle.
yes,
It's like you weed your garden.
it is,
You weed-
there's a
you weed
lot
the
of
tree- You take
things.
some of those trees out because in another 10 years, they're gonna start to go by on their own and they shade out the,
But that's where the discussion needs to go, is toward those sorts of concepts. So
That's why
that's
I'd like
nothing
to
that we're
see
going to
it
touch base on
Before I
today,
do
right?
that.
So it's a function of saying, we now know through the plan that I wrote and the inventory that I did, where a lot of our assets are and what the health of the forest conditions are out there. And if you look at that document critically, it brings about ideas toward different goals within what to do with any given piece of land, really, but that one specifically. So for example, buffers around the heron rookeries, so in order to make sure that we, conserve the wetlands out there and the habitat that would be more wetland scenarios. There are areas that have different soils that are harder to get around on at certain times of year, and if the growth is this, then each given stand of timber out there, each given stand within the land, we now know what's sitting on it, we now know its health, and we can then say what direction as a town would we like, or what would we like to see happen within this given spot. So there will be spots where we say, there's a cemetery over there, we need to, do
But we
we
also-
mark it out or preserve it? Do we stay out of this section? There's a stand over there that has some disease in it. Do we do some activity for forest health on that stand? These are part of the discussions that we have.
That's good. I just wanted to make sure that we have to capture that the town is changing and we're losing so much of the land that was here and everybody's moving here. So I would like to keep as much of it, not that that's a bad thing, although I am against widespread growth and destruction of the lands that were here. That's why we all decided to live here.
so if we take.
Everybody that lives here
If we
likes
did an
rural.
extensive research on the existing, like, town lot, and where the heron.
Well, for example, on the town
And
lot,
made like a nice sign, this area, should be conserved, or
lightly.
whatever, with a sign, so somebody's wandering through, like to do, I guess over Mary Grant, they have various little signs there on the trails, which makes it interesting, because it immediately gives the occupant, identifies where they are, and what it would cost to make the signs, whether it would be part of the whole process if you're gonna keep the land.
Right.
So I think that would be really important. So people, it's an educational process.
And that's,
A little ownership. when
I know if you get down
take
to
some
York,
pride.
down in York, they have, the big mountain down there, but they own a lot of that.
Agamanicus, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have signs, and they've gone out of the way, and they've taken a lot of land out of regular use and
Element.
put it into conservation. So this could be a process too, that you use, and I don't know what they've done up to.
Acquire some more of the lands.
exactly.
Well, the thing is, can the town maintain
I
it?
would like
That's
to
the
do
whole
that.
thing. I mean, it's like, it's maintained. So you have a whole new generation of people that, they're not maintainers, they're,
Well, at the 30,000 foot level, to your point, we have some in town that might say, if we're not going to make use of it, why do we have it? And then on the other hand, you might say, we need more conservation land that the town owns to prevent these other things from
Right,
happening and degrading the
exactly.
character of the town. So until you reach that 30,000 foot understanding of what our goals are, it's been hard to move forward with that. So that within the, ordinance, not ordinance, selectmen, town meeting level decisions that we make are gonna help to,
So-
guide us through that.
I would like to put that, and ask you to make a motion, maybe to put that on for our next meeting, is to have some thought between now and then, where do we each, what will our goals be to add to this and to help?
I can put that on as an agenda item, and
I would- We have to review the comprehensive plan to make sure that whatever we want kind of falls in line with that,
yeah.
but maybe set some lofty goals. What's the worst that can happen? We fail.
it's lofty.
And they say
But
no.
you can
But when
always, you
put
can
it
always
down-
start large, and then you can lower that circle.
Exactly.
And go
10,
down to
15.
get short measurable goals to get us to the big goal.
Exactly.
Right.
So, to that effect, think about goals for next time and, have 2 or 3 in your mind or written down, and we'll compile them and see if there's commonality on the committee, and if not, then we'll see.
Are we talking within town lands that we already have under our purview, or are we talking just in,
Both.
But we probably should have, I like to us to bring a goal for each.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
what we want for the town lands, and then what else we want as
Well,
part of the
okay,
conservation.
that's a good segue, actually reminded me of something.
Town
So
lands
part
and
of the
acquiring
idea that we had in the past that had moved forward is we have an account that has had timber revenue in it from the harvest that we did way back in the day on that property. And part of the goals for the committee at that time, Carl specifically, as backed by most within the committee, was that we were trying to have revenues created from conservation activities or activities on conservation land that generated revenue to go toward furthering other conservation goals, which could be purchase of more land or something along those lines. So, and so that is still in effect, I believe. There is an item out there that has a certain sub-account that has a certain amount of money in it, that the conservation side of the town wants to say, for example, if there are activities in town, like someone takes a parcel of property that's under a program called the Tree Growth Program, if you remove that, basically you commit to grow trees on a certain acre of land, and if you then sell it off as a house lot, you pay a penalty. So for example, a thought had been that monies that were from penalties of removal of conservation land should go also into a conservation account, which the Conservation Committee may then help to recommend expending toward other conservation efforts, mitigation, so to speak. So that had been something that we
That's a good
had on the
thought.
docket back in the day. And we never it never went anywhere. We never did anything with it.
Do you know how much money's in that account now?
It's been so long, Joe, I can't really
But it's
remember.
on the books.
It should be on the books,
Yeah.
yes. Yep.
Well, that's good, I mean,
What am I
that-
gonna say, a
that'd be some-
conservation account, review?
So this is different than the money that you're talking about, like the $300,
Not
which is like,
budget.
you know,
No, this is tree growth penalties.
oh, I'm sorry, the tree growth penalty
Yeah.
money. Well, again, that has so far just gone straight into town coffers, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen very frequently. I don't want to make it to be like that there's, you know,
Yeah, that kind of freaked me out a little.
$10,000 a year coming in there that the, you know,
There
it's
shouldn't be,
nothing like that.
there shouldn't be,
No.
but,
But that's the idea behind saying, when we're saying things like, we have goals on, town lands that we already own, but then we also have some goals for the town in general, and if the idea is perhaps working with other land trust organizations or conservation organizations that do business in the town, then do we have the means to do anything as a partnership with them? And that's where this money thing of perhaps activities that generated revenue on town land might go, type of thing.
Because I always like, we have a lot of lakes, we have a lot of, different conservation areas here
Right.
that we tend to, on this committee, to concentrate on the forestry piece.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that we're, not even 50/50, the town lands are in our mission, right? But I think we also need to look
Are
a
they?
little broader and look at,
For sure.
what else we can do for conservation.
that's a
or
great goal.
assist.
That's a good
I
goal.
was wondering about that, because this only, right now, walking in, we're only talking about those two lots. But I too would like to focus, long range about taking care of what we have overall, and what's available for us to take care of.
Then you're working with the code enforcement people and the planning board, and,
Be
it's,
that as it may, I mean.
yeah, I'm not,
Right,
I'm
right.
not,
So
I'm
for
not trying to
example, when
discourage
we
it.
go to town meeting and you see certain articles that might pertain to these sorts of things, you see the little footnote underneath that says, selectmen have voted recommending 3-0 to vote or approve, or warrant and finance vote to approve, or something like that. So if there were other conservation-based warrant articles within the town meeting come June,
We could say-
our idea would be, we would also have our advisory little blurb underneath of there saying, we have examined this, we think it's a good idea or not a good idea, here's what we think. Again, we are advisory, so you're starting to flirt with that, committee versus commission, authority scenario, but that's
So
hard
the
to figure out.
commission would
But it would
actually
give us
have to be an
credibility, too.
ordinance.
What?
To
Yes,
create a commission.
yes.
So that's probably what Daniel was saying, why we needed to have an ordinance, so we could be a commission and have a little more,
But they were-
Two
but we-
separate things, two separate things. You can have an ordinance without being a commission.
okay.
Correct.
And you can be a commission without having an ordinance.
Right.
Okay.
Probably not.
That's why there was confusion, is we're asking, well, what does that get us? If we don't have authority, we have been essentially told that we don't have authority, we are an advisory board. And if that's the case, then we're looking at the,
But
we've been
we
looking
could
at.
become an advisory board, such as the road
Correct.
committee and stuff, that the town finds credible if we come up with plans that
Correct.
say we support this conservation effort. It gives us as credibility as a committee, or, as we're talking as an advisory board.
And the mission,
Right.
the
Yep.
mission statement is the first step in that direction.
Correct.
All right, I'm good with that, because that's exactly where I'd like to see us go
Yep.
for long-term.
Yep.
If we're gonna stick it out and,
We're gonna have an objective,
Correct.
That's what the goals will produce.
That's what this town is just one year after the next, it's just floating around and back and forth.
Yep.
And, it's, like she said, it's changing.
Yep.
I mean,
Very
well,
fast.
I mean, it's like become a suburb, it's,
well, it's trying to be.
trying.
So I
So-
make the suggestion that we leave with each of, one of us coming back with our goals and thoughts, thinking about how that can turn into an objective for this committee. Maybe one in forestry, one in conservation.
They're not mutually exclusive.
They're not, but, they're definitely connected,
Yeah.
100%. But, just thinking about different pathways.
Yep. In the future, I'd like to keep these meetings to like an hour if we can, because I know you have lives, you have little kids at home that need their mommy and hopefully, or maybe, and it is snowing out, so,
Uh-oh, that's it.
yeah. So the next meeting date, according to what we decided, would be the 13th of February. That's the second Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Okay. And where do I turn the notes in?
I'll talk to you about that.
Okay.
Okay. And then,
Right, so in the meantime, definitely check out the comp plan.
Yeah.
And look up, again, get a hold of Jen and see if she can forward, electronic copies and things like that of the two plans that are out there.
I think I can do that.
You've got that.
I think
okay.
I've got
All right.
that. So I'll take care of that part.
Okay.
Okay?
It's been a while since I've read it, so can you forward it to all of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
I second it.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
That was great.
Steve,